Coming up on Look Today, the Glen Lake Protective Association applies herbicides to Glen Lake. I've got details. And we have an update on the recent measure that bans sidewalk sitting in downtown Saratoga Springs. More on that coming up. And Harley-Davidson features the Jumpstart apparatus. It's at the Americade event in Lake George. We've got those details. And it's all ahead on Look Today. Welcome everyone. I'm Jay Hood Jackson and this is Look Today. On tonight's program, I sit down with Donna Gagnon. She's the owner of Infotainment Services, and we're joined by Mike Camoin. He's the director of the Capitol Cinema Cultural Exchange. They're here to talk about the upcoming film about Lee Shaw, New York's Queen of Jazz. I also sit down with Kevin Coffey. He's a regional chief development officer for the American Red Cross. He's here to talk about their up-and-coming Fire and Ice Gala. Plus, we have your weather for the Tri-North counties. But first, we've got these headline stories. Well, in our lead story, the Glen Lake Protective Association applied herbicides to Glen Lake today in order to combat invasive species. Now, the annual process is conducted to regulate unwanted species that could potentially harm the local ecosystem as well as block the waterways. Now, the application is a community-approved process, and it primarily deals with Eurasian milfoil plants. Now, due to the abnormal rate of growth for milfoil, it blocks oxygen to the water, and it can also prove to be problematic for boating and fishing. Now, although the community surrounding Glen Lake may very well be aware of this issue, other visitors may not. And the Lake Association of Homeowners has approved this for the last 5 years, and would like to remind everyone that contact with the lake should be avoided for at least 24 hours after the application, and consumption of the lake water is not advisable for 2 weeks. Now, while this is a regular process, some people are not particularly happy with the application of the herbicides, and we spoke to Julia Henning. She's a resident on Glen Lake.
Fortunately, one of my neighbors brought over the notification warning me that we were not able to swim in the water or have our pets in the water or water our plants with the water or bathe with the water or cook with the water for perhaps up to over 20 days. Now, I know there's people that live on this lake who get their drinking water and their bathing water from the lake.
Oh, it's a delicate balance for sure. All right, in other news, the Americade event kicked off the beginning of the week with an estimated 16,000 people in attendance. Well, the 34th annual event in Lake George Village features over 250,000 square feet of vendor and demonstrations and displays by some of the most famous brands in the industry. Well, this year, Harley-Davidson is featuring something called Jumpstart, which allows first-time motorcycle riders to experience the bike in a very safe manner. Now, the apparatus prevents the bike from moving while allowing the rider to rev the engine and to spin the back wheel. Sounds like fun? We were at Americade and we spoke to Alan Fankhauser. He's from Harley-Davidson Motorcycle Company, and he spoke to us about this apparatus.
We are showing Maria how to ride a motorcycle, and this is an apparatus that we call the Jumpstart. It's for non-riders to learn how to ride in a safe environment.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Switching from news to weather. Well, today saw further decreases in temperatures. It was downright cold this morning. It was going down to the mid-50s with considerable winds. Well, let's see how the rest of the week is shaping up. For a more detailed look at our weather, we're going to head to the Glens Falls Weather Center for a look at your first forecast. Back to the news. Well, we've got an update on the controversy concerning sidewalk sitting in Saratoga Springs. Now, the city had to make a tough decision earlier this week, and they tackled the issue of vagrancy. Now, leading up to the council's decision, many residents of Saratoga complained about being accosted by rude and aggressive panhandlers. Some even mentioned the unsettling sight of a number of homeless people on the street in broad daylight. Now, while others believe that it is an infringement upon people's basic rights to ban them from sitting on the sidewalk. Well, we've heard from a lot of you about this issue, and today we spoke with Don Petersymes. He's a member of the homeless community.
You know, I can understand that they have a problem with all the panhandlers and that are out there on the streets. Some of them are docile, and some of them are just plain mean when people don't give them money, you know. And I think that, you know, that's a public nuisance issue that should be taken care of, but it should be taken care of on an individual basis rather than a group basis.
Yeah. And Mayor Joanne Yepsen of Saratoga is a key figure in helping the homeless and those who need affordable housing. Now, at the decisive council meeting earlier, she cast the only dissenting vote against the measure. She believes that the measure is too harsh. Now, the mayor recognizes the issue of vagrancy and believes that we must identify the source of the issue and provide help to those who seek it.
We have already ended veterans' homelessness in Saratoga Springs because we know who they are. We have identified them person by person, and we have accommodated their needs so that they're not only getting housing, but they're getting the services they need. And we have a program and a process in place for future veterans that identify themselves as homeless. But we need to do that now for everyone that is interested in moving their life forward, and having those resources available like Code Blue, like County Mental Health, like DSS are extremely important in the whole package of solving this problem.
Now, as you know, this is a controversial issue for the city of Saratoga, and we're going to do our best to keep the dialogue open on this issue with the interviews with key figures of our community. Up next, I sit down with Donna Gagnon. She's the owner of Infotainment Services, and we're joined by Mike Camoin. He's the director of the Capitol Cinema Cultural Exchange, and they're here to talk about the upcoming film about Lee Shaw, New York's Queen of Jazz. Plus, I sit down with Kevin Coffey. He's the Regional Chief Development Officer for the American Red Cross. He's here to talk about their upcoming Fire and Ice Gala. But first, if you see news happening, you want to share a story idea. How about join us for an interview? Give us a call on the hotline. The number is 798-8000. Well, that's all the time we have for this edition of Look Today. I've got a couple of lookouts. The first one goes to our viewers. When I arrived at the studio this morning, my phone was lit up with some messages concerning two topics that we covered in the news tonight. One was the vagrancy issue in Saratoga Springs, the sidewalk issue, and the other one was the Glen Lake issue. And I want to thank those viewers for calling in, because we followed up on both of those stories. And just one other lookout to the woman who answers the phone at the Queensbury Town Hall. When a news organization like us, or any other news organization, calls to get information, it's probably not a good idea to be rude to the person who calls. You know who you are. Tonight on Look TV, it's sold, our call-in auction program, Great Estate Jewelry and Coins. And don't forget, tune in tomorrow night for the stories that matter to you. Good night, everyone.